The unexpected visitor. The central command chamber of Outpost Celestia hummed with activity as dozens of Valari operators managed the sophisticated monitoring systems that kept watch over this section of the Galactic Alliance's territory. Their smooth blue-tinted skin reflected the soft ambient lighting as they communicated through subtle chromatophore patterns across their bodies, a communication method far more nuanced than the crude vocalizations used by many other species. Senior Commander Jarek stood on the elevated platform, his tall frame casting a long shadow across the holographic display that dominated the chamber center. His four eyes, the larger primary pair, focused on strategic data while the smaller secondary pair scanned personnel movements, narrowed as a warning tone echoed through the chamber. Unidentified vessel has breached the outer sensor perimeter of Sector 14 Delta, announced the synthetic voice of the station's eye. Classification: military. Origin: Terra system. A wave of color speech rippled through the chamber as the Valari operators expressed alarm and confusion. Humans had been accepted into the Galactic Alliance only 30 cycles ago, and their military vessels were strictly confined to their own system and a small corridor of established trade routes. Verify and confirm, Jarek ordered, his voice calm despite the tension building in his chest sacs. The humans were unpredictable at best, dangerous at worst. The massive display shifted, showing real-time sensor data of a sleek, angular vessel moving with deliberate purpose through space. It was smaller than most Alliance warships, but its design was unmistakably built for combat. Confirmation complete, responded Sub-Commander Nelia, her skin pulsing with anxiety patterns. It's a human destroyer-class vessel. Sensors identify it as the TSV Defiance. Jarek's membrane ridges stiffened. Access Alliance archives. I want all available information. The display shimmered as data streamed across its surface. What Jarek learned did nothing to ease his concern. The TSV Defiance was humanity's newest prototype vessel, commanded by Captain Mira Chen, a decorated veteran of Earth's recent unification conflicts. Most troubling was that intelligence reports indicated this ship should still be undergoing final testing in the Sol system. They're taking direct course for the Helios mining colony, Nelia added, her voice dropping to a concerned murmur. A cold realization gripped Jarek. The Helios colony, where the Alliance was holding 127 human colonists after they had accidentally entered restricted space 3 cycles ago. The diplomatic channels were still processing the incident. Open communication channel, he commanded. Standard protocol warnings. The communications officer obeyed, and moments later, the massive display split, revealing the bridge of the human ship. Jarek found himself staring at a human woman with short black hair and skin the color of rich soil. Her eyes held a disturbing intensity that even his species' emotional detachment couldn't dismiss. This is Senior Commander Jarek of Outpost Celestia, Galactic Alliance Defense Force. You have entered restricted space in violation of the Proxima Treaty. Withdraw immediately or face consequences according to Alliance regulations. The human's expression didn't change as she spoke, her voice carrying an authority that Jarek found unexpectedly disquieting. This is Captain Mira Chen of the Terran space vessel Defiance. We are aware of our position, Commander. I'm here regarding the 127 Earth citizens you're detaining at the Helios facility. Jarek's respiratory membranes fluttered. The directness was typically human. No diplomatic subtleties, no proper introduction protocols, just demands. These individuals violated sovereign Alliance space and are being processed according to interstellar law. Your presence here only complicates matters and constitutes a serious treaty violation. Jarek responded. Let me simplify the situation for you, Chen replied. The navigation systems of these colonists were affected by a spatial anomaly that your people failed to report. Their violation was not intentional, and you've been holding them for over 90 days without proper communication or legal representation. The standard processing period for incursions is 120 standard cycles, Jarek countered, feeling increasingly uncomfortable with this exchange. Your government was informed through appropriate channels. Those channels seem to suffer from significant delays, said Chen with what humans called a smile, though Jarek had studied enough xenopsychology to recognize there was no warmth in it. We've come to expedite the process. The tactical officer interrupted with urgent information. Commander, we're detecting active scans from the human ship. They're examining our defense systems and mapping the entire sector. The situation was escalating too quickly. Captain Chen, cease all scans immediately. This is your final warning. I should warn you, Commander, said Chen, leaning slightly forward. The Defiance is not alone. We already have forces positioned in this sector. I strongly recommend you arrange the immediate release of our people. Forces? The tactical display showed only the single human ship. Could they have somehow deployed troops covertly? Human technology was considered primitive by Alliance standards, but they were notoriously unpredictable. Sir, called the tactical officer again, this time with an edge of concern in her voice. The human ship is deploying something. Hundreds of small objects. Weapons systems online, Jarek ordered. Raise defense fields to maximum. Those aren't weapons, the officer corrected herself after a moment. They appear to be probes, unmanned devices distributing throughout the sector. On the display, Captain Chen remained composed. Those are merely observation drones, Commander. Standard protocol when entering potentially hostile space. Recall them immediately, Jarek demanded. This intrusion will not be tolerated. I'm afraid I can't do that, Chen answered. Now, about our colonists. Jarek terminated the connection with a sharp gesture. Alert all outposts in the sector. I want 3 cruisers diverted here immediately, and command contacted. Inform them we have a potential conflict situation with the humans. Commander, Nelia interjected with unusually tense voice patterns. I've analyzed their deployment pattern. These drones aren't random. They're establishing a network that appears designed to. She hesitated. To what? To map our blind spots and communication relays. It's almost as if they're preparing for a larger operation. Jarek stared at the tactical display where the single human ship hung in space, surrounded by a growing cloud of tiny drones. One ship, one primitive human warship against the might of the Alliance. Yet something about this scenario felt wrong. Re-establish connection, he ordered. Captain Chen reappeared on the display. Have you reconsidered, Commander? Captain Chen, you must understand your position. You are a single ship in Alliance space, surrounded by our forces. Whatever you're planning, it cannot succeed. Withdraw immediately, and we can address the colonist situation through diplomatic channels. Chen nodded thoughtfully. A single ship, yes. But you see, Commander, throughout human history, we've learned that it's not about the size of the force, but how you deploy it. Her dark eyes fixed on him. You have 1 hour to begin the release process for our colonists, or I will be forced to demonstrate why the Defiance was so named. This time, the communication ended from the human side. Arrogance, muttered one of the officers. Jarek wasn't so sure. He had studied human military history enough to know they rarely engaged in direct confrontations without a plan, and Captain Chen's reputation suggested she excelled particularly in asymmetric warfare. Commander, Nelia called, her tone now unmistakably alarmed. The drones have reached the Helios colony. They're taking positions around the detention facility. Order the colony to destroy those drones immediately, Jarek commanded. They're trying, sir, but the drones are employing countermeasures our systems can't track. The situation was escalating too quickly. Jarek activated his personal neural link to command and requested urgent support. The response came back immediately. Contain the situation. No concessions. Reinforcements dispatched. He took a deep breath and considered. The humans were obviously planning something, but what could one ship possibly achieve? Sir, interrupted Nilia's voice, I've analyzed Captain Chen's service record more closely. During the unification conflicts, she commanded a single frigate against 3 corporate battleships. She prevailed against overwhelming odds. The records are classified, but reports suggest she employed unconventional tactics that exploited fundamental weaknesses in theoretically superior technology. Jarek felt a chill run down his spine. The Alliance had always viewed human technology as primitive, relying more on brute force than the elegant solutions of advanced civilizations. But what if that perception itself was a vulnerability? "Maintain alert status," he ordered. "I want continuous monitoring of the Defiance and all those drones. If anything changes, I want to know immediately." As bustling activity continued in the command center, Jarek stared at the image of the human ship on the display. It looked so small, so insignificant compared to the vastness of space and the power of the Alliance. Yet something told him this encounter was far from over, and that Captain Mira Chen had not come unprepared. The clock was ticking. 57 minutes remained until the human deadline expired. Jarek sensed that whatever happened then would change more than just this border dispute. It might change the Alliance's understanding forever. As if summoned by his thoughts, a priority alert sounded. The high-ranking Alliance analyst, strategic specialist Vorex, had arrived at the station. The tall, insectoid Sithri moved with the precision that had made his species the leading military analysts of the Alliance, his compound eyes constantly shifting to take in every detail of the command center. "Commander," he greeted Jarek with the minimalist greeting typical of his kind. "I've reviewed your situation report. Most concerning." Jarek gestured toward the tactical display. "The human ship maintains its position. Their drones have established a perimeter around our outpost and the Helios colony. 3 cruisers will arrive within the hour." Vorex made a dismissive gesture with his forearm. "The cruisers are irrelevant to immediate concerns. I must understand the strategy of the human commander." Strategy. Jarek's membranes pulsed in confusion. "They have one ship. Whatever they're planning, our forces will overwhelm them." "Your assumption reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of human warfare," Vorex replied, his voice carrying the distinctive overtones of a lecturer. "I have dedicated 63 cycles to studying their military history. Do you know what makes them particularly dangerous?" Jarek did not respond, recognizing a rhetorical question. "Humans are paradoxical," Vorex continued. "Their technology develops in unpredictable patterns, often favoring unusual applications over logical development. They routinely deploy systems that shouldn't efficiently work together, yet somehow they make them function." He moved to the tactical station, his long fingers dancing over the controls. "Show me everything about this ship, the Defiance." The display shifted, highlighting the human vessel and its specifications as known to Alliance intelligence. "Nothing special," noted Jarek. "Standard configuration for a destroyer, though our scans indicate some modifications to propulsion and energy systems." "No," Vorex leaned closer to the display. "Not merely modifications. Look at the deviations in the energy signature. These aren't simple modifications. This ship is fundamentally different from standard designs." He manipulated the display further, isolating certain measurements. "The energy distribution is completely wrong for a ship of this class. They're channeling power in patterns that contradict their own design principles. And these material readings." He paused, his compound eyes narrowing. "The entire composition contains elements we cannot identify." Jarek felt growing unease. "A prototype, as our intelligence suggested. Beyond that, I believe this ship represents a significant technological leap for humanity." Vorex turned to the commander. "Has the human captain stated her demands?" "The release of the colonists on Helios. Nothing more." Vorex emitted a sound expressing skepticism. "Unlikely. Humans rarely deploy advanced military assets for simple retrieval operations." He turned his attention back to the display. "What about the drones they've deployed?" Nelia stepped forward. "We've tried to analyze them. Strategic specialist. They appear to be simple observation platforms, but they possess some kind of phase-shifting technology that makes them difficult to target or disrupt." Phase shifting. Vorex's posture stiffened. That technology should be beyond their capabilities by at least 3 development cycles. A communication alert sounded. "Captain Chen is calling us," announced the communications officer. On screen, Jarek ordered. The human captain appeared, her expression as composed as before. "Your time has expired, Commander. What is your decision regarding our colonists?" Before Jarek could answer, Vorex stepped forward. "Captain Chen, I am Strategic Specialist Vorex of the Department for Strategic Operations. Your presence here constitutes a serious violation of existing treaties." "A new voice," remarked Chen, studying the Sithri carefully. "Interesting that the Alliance sent a military strategist rather than a diplomat." "Your actions suggest this is a military rather than diplomatic situation," Vorex countered. "One ship, no matter how advanced, cannot stand against the Alliance fleet," he continued. "Whatever your plan, it is doomed to failure." Chen smiled, a gesture Vorex found particularly disturbing when coming from a human. "Strategic specialist, since you've studied our history, perhaps you recall a human named T.E. Lawrence who once said, 'To fight a war against a rebellion is messy and slow, like eating soup with a knife.' The Alliance has made the mistake of believing numerical and technological superiority guarantees victory. An interesting philosophical position, but ultimately irrelevant to your current situation," replied Vorex. "We will not release the colonists until appropriate legal procedures are completed." "Then I must insist more forcefully." Chen nodded to someone off-screen. "I had hoped to resolve this peacefully." Suddenly, alarms erupted on the tactical display. "Sir," called the tactical officer, "the drones are changing." On the screens, the hundreds of small devices that had been passively monitoring the sector began transforming, developing into more complex configurations. "What's happening?" asked Jarek. "They're generating some kind of energy field," reported Nelia with a concerned voice. "It's disrupting our sensor networks and communication relays." "A jamming system," Vorex recognized aloud, but distributed across hundreds of independent platforms. "Not just jammers," he corrected. "These are CAIN units, Coordinated Autonomous Intelligence Nodes. They're mapping every centimeter of your defenses and creating a tactical real-time network that adapts to your countermeasures." A chill of recognition ran through Vorex. This technology resembled theoretical systems the Alliance had been developing, yet humans had apparently already implemented it. "Even with these devices, you cannot hope for victory," he declared, though with less certainty than before. "I don't need to defeat your entire fleet, Strategic Specialist," Chen replied, leaning slightly forward. "I only need to accomplish my mission." Chen's voice hardened. "Here is my revised offer. Release our colonists within the next 30 minutes, and we will depart peacefully. If you refuse, I will be forced to demonstrate the Defiance's capabilities in a way the Alliance will find educational." The communication ended, leaving them staring at the tactical display. Jarek looked to Vorex, his membranes pulsing with uncertainty. Vorex slowly shook his head. "Activate all defense systems and prepare for combat," he ordered, then hesitated. "You believe a human ship poses such a great threat?" asked Jarek incredulously. "I believe," replied Vorex, his gaze fixed on the tactical display where the Defiance hung in space surrounded by its network of transformed drones, "that we may have severely underestimated humanity's technological development. And in war, underestimation is often the precursor to catastrophe." As if to emphasize his statement, a new alarm sounded. The tactical officer's voice tense and alarmed. "Sir, we're detecting energy signatures unlike anything in our database. The human ship is changing." Defiance unleashed. The transformation of the TSV Defiance began subtly, sections of its hull shifting and reconfiguring as if the ship itself were a living organism adapting to its environment. The smooth metallic surface rippled, panels sliding apart to reveal previously concealed systems. "Impossible," breathed Nelia, her skin flashing with patterns of disbelief. "Their hull configuration is completely altering its energy signature and cross-section profile." Vorex's compound eyes widened as he processed what they were witnessing. Adaptive morphology, he said, his usual academic tone tinged with awe. Their ship can reconfigure itself for different tactical situations. On the main view screen, the Defiance continued its metamorphosis. What had appeared to be a standard human destroyer was revealing itself as something far more advanced, its once solid hull now displaying a honeycomb-like structure with countless small apertures forming across its surface. "Sir," the sensor officer's voice cracked with alarm. "Energy buildup detected throughout the human vessel. It's unlike any weapon's signature in our database." Jarek's command training took over. "Raise all shields to maximum. Alert the Helios colony to activate emergency protocols. Target the human vessel with all available weapon systems." "We should attempt to negotiate," Vorex suggested, his analytical mind already calculating their diminishing odds. "I believe Captain Chen would still." He was interrupted by the communications officer. "Incoming transmission from the Defiance." "Sir." Captain Chen appeared on screen, her posture relaxed despite the escalating situation. "Commander Jarek, Strategic Specialist Vorex, I see you've noticed our ship's little trick. The Defiance is what we call a metamorphic vessel, the first of its kind in the Terran fleet." "What is it you want, Captain?" Jarek demanded, buying time as he watched Alliance reinforcements approaching on the tactical display, still 20 minutes away at maximum speed. "I've already told you what I want," Chen replied calmly. "The immediate release of our colonists. And now, I'm going to show you why you should take my request seriously." She nodded to someone off-screen. "Lieutenant Park, initiate Phase 1. The screen went dark as she terminated the communication. "Sir." The tactical officer's voice rose in pitch. "The drones surrounding the Helios facility are moving." On the tactical display, they watched as the cloud of human drones surrounding the detention facility began to pulse with coordinated energy signatures. Moments later, reports flooded in from the colony. "They're reporting system failures across the entire facility," Nelia announced, her skin paling to a light blue. "Security systems, weapon emplacements, even basic life support, all failing simultaneously." "How is this possible?" Jarek demanded. "Their technology shouldn't be capable of this level of intrusion." Vorex had gone utterly still, the way his species did when processing complex information. "CAI in units," he finally said. "Not just observation platforms. Each drone is part of a distributed quantum-entangled network. They're not hacking the systems. They're creating a cascading reality field that alters the fundamental operating parameters of our technology." "In plain language, specialist," Jarek snapped. "They've developed a way to make our technology simply stop working correctly," Vorex explained. "It's theoretical technology that our best minds considered decades away from practical implementation." Alarms blared as new information poured in. The Helios colony was reporting breach alerts at multiple locations. The detention facility's doors had all opened simultaneously, and security footage showed the human colonists being guided by what appeared to be holographic interfaces projected by the drones. "They're extracting their people," Jarek realized. "All defense forces converge on the detention facility. Stop them at all costs." "The colony reports that their weapons aren't functioning," Nelia responded grimly. "And the drones have established some kind of energy barrier preventing our personnel from physically reaching the detention areas." On the tactical display, they watched as the Defiance launched what appeared to be transport vessels, sleek, dark craft that moved with impossible speed toward the colony. "Intercept those transports," Jarek ordered. "We can't get a weapons lock," the tactical officer reported, frustration evident in her voice patterns. "The drones are generating a field that's disrupting our targeting systems." Vorex moved to a secondary console, his long fingers dancing across the controls. "I'm analyzing their technology. This is remarkable. The principles behind it are unlike anything in our records. It's not just advanced, it's fundamentally different." The communications panel chimed again. "The Defiance is hailing us." Captain Chen appeared, her expression serious but not grim. Behind her, they could see the bridge crew working with quick efficiency. "Commander, your reinforcements will arrive in approximately 18 minutes. My colonists will be safely aboard the Defiance in less than 10. I suggest you order your forces to stand down and avoid unnecessary casualties." Jarek's respiratory membranes flared in anger. "This act of aggression will not go unanswered, Captain. The Alliance will." "The Alliance will do what exactly?" Chen interrupted. "Declare war on humanity. Over colonists who accidentally strayed into your space and were illegally detained. I think not." She leaned forward. "Let me be clear, Commander. We could have launched a full-scale assault. The technology you're witnessing, metamorphic hull configuration, CAI in units, phased reality disruption, these are just the technologies we're willing to reveal." Vorex stepped into view. "Your technological development has exceeded our projections by at least 3 generations. How is this possible?" Chen smiled slightly. "You misunderstand humanity, Specialist Vorex. Your Alliance thinks linearly, each technological advancement building methodically on the last. Humans think laterally. We jump tracks. We combine incompatible ideas. We develop technology based not just on what's logical, but on what we can imagine." A junior officer approached Chen and whispered something. She nodded. "The extraction is proceeding on schedule," she informed them. "No casualties on either side so far. Let's keep it that way." Alarms sounded on the command deck as new sensor readings came in. "Sir," Nelia called out. "The Defiance, it's changing again." On the tactical display, they watched as the human ship's transformation continued. The honeycomb structure of its hull was now pulsing with energy, and what appeared to be weapons ports were opening along its length. "Defensive positions," Jarek ordered. "All power to shields." "That won't be necessary, Commander," Chen assured him. "These aren't weapon systems being deployed. This is a demonstration." The Defiance suddenly emitted a pulse of energy that washed over the outpost. Rather than damage, it seemed to simply pass through everything. "What was that?" Jarek demanded. "A quantum resonance scan," Vorex answered before Chen could, his voice hollow with realization. "They just mapped every system, every defense, every piece of technology in this entire outpost. In seconds." Chen nodded. "Precisely. Technology your analysts believed was at least 50 years beyond human capability. Yet here we are." The tactical display updated with new information. The transport vessels launched from the Defiance had reached the Helios colony and were now departing, carrying the human colonists based on life sign readings. "Extraction complete," Chen announced. "All 127 colonists accounted for and unharmed. Now we depart." "The Alliance cruisers will be here in minutes," Jarek warned. "You won't escape." "Actually, Commander, we will," Chen replied confidently. "Because you're going to order them to let us pass." "And why would I do that?" Jarek challenged. "Because starting a war over a misunderstanding would be foolish," Chen said. "And because you now understand that humanity is not the technologically inferior species you believed us to be." Vorex moved closer to the screen. "Captain Chen, before you go, why reveal these capabilities? Strategic doctrine would suggest keeping such advantages secret until absolutely necessary." Chen's expression softened slightly. "2 reasons, Specialist. First, we want the Alliance to understand that while we desire peaceful relations, we will protect our people with all available means. Second," she paused, "consider this a respectful warning. Humanity is ready to join the galactic community as equals, not as junior partners to be patronized or pushed around." The tactical display updated again as the transport vessels docked with the Defiance. The cloud of drones began returning to the ship as well, folding in on themselves as they were recovered. "The decision is yours, Commander," Chen continued. "You can allow us to depart peacefully with our people, or you can order your cruisers to engage us. But I should warn you, What you've seen today is just the beginning of what the Defiance can do. Jarek looked to Vorex, who gave the subtle shoulder movement his species used to indicate agreement. Stand down all weapons, Jarek ordered after a moment of tense silence. Alert the incoming cruisers to maintain distance, but take no hostile action against the human vessel. A wise decision, Chen acknowledged with a nod. For what it's worth, Commander, I hope our next meeting will be under more diplomatic circumstances. As do I, Captain, Jarek replied, finding he genuinely meant it. The communication ended, and they watched as the Defiance's hull reconfigured once more, returning to its original appearance. The ship turned gracefully and accelerated away from the outpost, its propulsion system leaving a distinctive blue-white trail unlike anything Alliance sensors had recorded before. As the human ship disappeared from their immediate sensor range, the command center fell into an uneasy silence. They could have done much worse, Vorex noted quietly. Their technology would have allowed them to disable this entire outpost, perhaps even destroy it. Yet they chose a surgical extraction with no casualties. Jarek nodded slowly. A message, then. Indeed, Vorex agreed. A most effective one. The arrival of the Alliance cruisers did nothing to dispel the somber mood that had settled over the command center. The senior officer of the reinforcement fleet, Commander Lixel, strode onto the command deck, his scales bristling with barely contained anger. Would someone explain how a single human vessel breached our defenses, neutralized a secure facility, and extracted over 100 prisoners without firing a single shot? He demanded. Jarek and Vorex exchanged glances. Sir, Jarek began, I believe my report will require a direct transmission to Alliance High Command. What we witnessed today changes everything we thought we knew about human technological capabilities. Lixel's anger faded into confusion. It was just one ship. Yes, Vorex confirmed, his compound eyes fixed on the last known coordinates of the Defiance. One ship that just rewrote the balance of power in this sector of the galaxy. As the Alliance officers began the lengthy process of damage assessment and intelligence analysis, a quantum communication pulse raced ahead of the Defiance, carrying Captain Mira Chen's report to Earth Central Command. Aboard the Defiance, Chen sat in her ready room, reviewing the medical reports on the rescued colonists. All were in relatively good health, considering their 3-month detention. Her door chimed. Enter, she called. Her executive officer, Commander Raj Sharma, stepped inside. The colonists are all settled in temporary quarters, Captain. Medical teams report no serious conditions, though there's some malnutrition and psychological stress. We'll reach the Proxima waypoint in 48 hours. Chen nodded. Thank you, Raj, and the ship. All systems nominal. The metamorphic hull performed beyond expectations. Engineering is already downloading the test data for analysis back home. Chen leaned back in her chair. And what do you think? Did we make the right call revealing so much of our capabilities? Sharma considered the question. Strategically, it's a risk. We showed more of our hand than necessary for a simple extraction. But, Chen prompted, knowing her XO always considered all angles. But diplomatically, it might have been necessary, he admitted. The Alliance has treated humanity as a junior partner since first contact. They needed to understand that's no longer acceptable. Chen smiled slightly. My thoughts exactly. High Command wanted a demonstration that would get the Alliance's attention without starting a war. I think we achieved that. The quantum pulse transmission is confirmed received at Earth Central, Sharma added. I expect we'll have updated orders within the hour. Chen nodded. Whatever comes next, the galaxy just changed. Raj. The Alliance now knows humanity isn't just the upstart species they thought we were. Do you think they'll retaliate? He asked. Eventually, they'll adjust, Chen replied thoughtfully. Species like the Velari and Sithri pride themselves on logical thinking. Once they analyze what happened today, they'll reassess their approach to humanity. She stood and walked to the small viewport, watching the stars streak by as the Defiance traveled faster than any Alliance vessel could match. "One ship, Raj," she said quietly. "One ship was all it took to change the equation. Imagine what they'll think when they realize we have an entire fleet ready to launch." In the silence that followed, both officers contemplated the future, a future where humanity would no longer be underestimated by the galaxy's older civilizations. It was a future full of uncertainty, but also possibility. The Defiance continued its journey home, leaving behind an Alliance forced to reckon with a new reality, that humans were not merely clever primates playing with technology they barely understood, but equals who had earned their place among the stars through innovation and determination. And in the command center of Outpost Celestia, Strategic Specialist Forex began composing what would become a historic report to Alliance High Command. Its title was simple but profound: Humanity. A reassessment. The galaxy would never be the same again.